Welcome everyone to another episode of Bitcoin Magazine Live. Today is December 9th, 2022. We're about to jump into news and notes with my co-host Nolan. How goes it, Nolan?
Chris, I love life. Who could be more enthusiastic? It's Bitcoin winter, sure, but the veil is lifting. The veil is lifting. The energy is shifting. Who cares about the spot price? All kinds of things happening, right? All kinds of things. Everyone's talking about how at least the collective brain where we process information is getting a little better. Twitter dealing with all kinds of dark secrets of how the country is governed, censorship. Go to other shows to hear more about that. We're not talking about it today. We're talking about a story that's under the radar. Not a lot of people talking about it, except us Bitcoiners, because we're actually talking about the future. If you come to Miami, May 18th to 20th, you'll hear lots more about the future. You'll hear lots more about the end of Bitcoin winter. You'll hear lots about this, kind of Bitcoin standard utopia we're building, and physical proof that this is being built. You're going to hear about it at our show, and you're going to hear about it right now, which is Jack Dorsey, again, took pictures and showed everyone around the Kenyan hydropower station where Gridless's $2 million investment went. Now, remember, Chris, my co-host here, has lived through the recent attack on the centralized grid in North Carolina, which left about 40,000 people without power for several days. And the governor of North Carolina at the time warned us this is a new threat, right? He said it just yesterday. This is a new threat. Maybe not yet, Monday or whatever. It's a long week. Lots going on. So said it was a new threat that day, and it turns out he accurately predicted something that we saw. Florida yesterday had a similar action. We don't know the details yet. Looks like more shots fired, more grid attacks, the grid itself and its architecture under stress. Gridless, of course, what Jack Dorsey helped lead the $2 million round into the other day, is going to be all about centralizing the finance with Bitcoin around decentralized energy infrastructure. That means small stations being developed that don't necessarily need to have a human population around, but the people lucky enough around will benefit. And we see the benefits right now. It's 60% savings for the local people in the village where this first hydro dam that's mining Bitcoin is located. 60% reduction in their electricity costs. Now, 60% is news. This is enough. If this model scales, it's enough to solve lots of people's problems. And that's exactly the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about in Miami, May 18th to 20th. You know, we do all kinds of things over the years to increase everyone's financial literacy. You know, Bitcoin, a huge momentum behind Bitcoin was to increase people's financial literacy, make them aware of what's going on around them, understanding what's going on between central banks, commercial banks, what making money and preserving wealth really means. Of course, we talk about the Bitcoin rabbit hole. The Bitcoin rabbit hole, a lot to do with financial literacy. But another big part of the rabbit hole is energy literacy. And Bitcoin Miami is an energy show. The energy is going to be there. It's going to be the end of Bitcoin winter, promised May 18th to 20th. And we're going to be talking all about energy. We're going to have way more energy content than we ever had. We're definitely going to have people from Gridless there talking about what's going on. So join us, become much more. We already have, I would say, the most financially literate audience out there. We've already got a very, you guys out there, I know you're all financially literate and energy literate. It's going to be even more. We're going to keep coming at you with the best energy content in the world. It's us.
Yeah, well, talking about risks of grids, another risk is leaving your Bitcoin on exchanges. Well, luckily this month, for hell or high water, $3.4 billion of US dollar value of Bitcoin left exchanges. To give some, if someone was asking for the sats value, I love it. 20.4 quadrillion sats left exchanges. So 100 million sats and one Bitcoin left exchanges this month. We kind of strongly believe that this has been a trend going at least a lot of part of this year. We saw 3 Arrows Capital blow up. We saw Celsius file for bankruptcy. Voyager filed for bankruptcy. FTX bailed them out, and then they filed for bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. So we just want to say, not your keys, not your coins, leaving you on any exchange. The Binance and FTX of the world, I avoid them personally because they tempt you with other shit coins on there. I much prefer Strike or Swan, or even more preferred to that is non-KYC sats. Buying Bitcoin peer-to-peer, earning it, buying it from a miner. That's my preferred method for doing it personally. But
yeah, our show has always been about, that's the financial literacy piece right there. That's the true blossoming of financial literacy, to understand about controlling your own keys, controlling your own financial worth. And that's, I'd say our audience was protected from the FTX contagion simply because of their level of financial literacy. I bet if you did an analysis between people who attended Bitcoin 2022 and 2021 exclusively and not other conferences, you'd find out that they had a lot less exposure to the FTX thing afterwards, right? I'd say you'd see a lot of other shows that were very Web3. I bet you those people ate a shit sandwich the past few days, but not folks who watch our show because they are financially and energy literate. So keep watching.
And yeah, it got a little even spicier yesterday. So CZ tweeted out, Sam was so unhinged at multiple, it was so unhinged when we decided to back out, him meaning Binance, or when they decided to back out as an investor to try and save them, that he sent a series of offensive tirades at multiple Binance team members, including threatening to go to extraordinary lengths to make us pay. We still have those text messages. This is like CZ's tweet, at least what he was saying. SBF immediately rebutted, or very shortly thereafter rebutted. He's like, you won, CZ. There's no reason to lie, about the buyout. We initiated conversations around buying you out, or you guys buying us out, and we decided to do it because it was important for our business. And basically, while I was frustrated with your negotiation tactics, I chose to still do it. So, a little back and forth. One of our editors actually said, like, hey, CZ, you just promoted proof of reserves or audited proof of reserves. Show us the text messages. That's what we want to see. If you're all about this transparency, but then you're hiding behind the closed door. I'm not saying SBF won this argument, but it's very funny, the back and forth of these two large figures, at least in the space, for sure.
Well, as sick as I am of seeing and hearing from SBF, you got to just admire the simulation coordinating everyone into the same room. Like I said, we've got the Ghislaine Maxwell lawyer is now with SBF, and the Clintons lawyers are with Carolyn, and they did a porno together, and it never gets old. Come on, CZ looks like he can add a little more spice to it. He's been involved in a lot of this, and we expect more. So let's keep watching.
Well, speaking of not your keys, not your coins, Grayscale Bitcoin is kind of a shitcoin, or GBDC is kind of a shitcoin. What do I mean by this? Well, you're not self-custodying Bitcoin. You're kind of giving that to Grayscale or Digital Currency Group, the one that owns that, to self-custody your Bitcoin. So there's a risk there. But then also, people did not think that the GBDC was going to be trading at a 50% discount to NAV, net asset value. So that means when you think you're buying Bitcoin at $17,000 a pop, $16,000 a pop, right now when you're buying GBDC, you're getting Bitcoin at 8,500. Obviously, a lot of people think that will revert back to the mean or to the net asset value. If, God forbid, Grayscale went bankrupt or they had to sell off the trust, the person buying it would have to buy it and make it NAV up to spot, or at least that's what they think. A lot of crazier things have been known to happen. Maybe the Bitcoin's not there. There was claims of that. People were saying, oh, show us the address where the resides of the Grayscale trust. And they said for privacy reasons, they don't want to show backwards of where they were acquiring these Bitcoins from. Sounds like they were buying from sketchy places. Maybe they're not there. That's kind of the risk you run when you get GBTC, but it's not been trading at a premium since March of 2021. Obviously, the peak of the Bitcoin bull run was more of November of 2021. So this has been down in the dumps for coming up on 2 years, like 19, 20 months. So really crazy. Not your keys, not your coins. Don't advocate for getting GBTC. I understand some people are like, oh, I only have money in 401ks. There are options to try and roll it over to an IRA and then self-custody through that. But hey, that's just information that I'm throwing out there. Anything else you want to add there, Nolan?
No, those are all clever workarounds, right? Clever workarounds. And Elon Musk got a really clever workaround now for this Twitter 30% tax situation. So if you guys don't remember, the iOS Apple 30% tax situation. If you guys, just to refresh, it turns out that there's a 30% tax on all apps sold in the App Store, in that the creator of the app gets 70%, Apple itself gets 30%. Elon Musk began talking about this when it was rumored that Apple wanted to kick Twitter off the App Store. And Elon now has gone out and created a new pricing structure around Twitter Blue. So if you sign up on the web for the services and pay through the web, you'll only pay $7 a month. So the $8 thing, pay $8 for Twitter, he totally blew that up. One of the best marketing little signatures you could have ever imagined, right? Now pay $8. Remember, Elon Musk never has marketing departments in any of his companies. When people said, and he fired the Twitter marketing department, everyone was like, what are you going to do? Well, none of his companies have marketing. Never. He's a marketer, right? He's a marketer. So the $8 is now scrapped. It's $7 if you pay on the web, and $11 if you have to use the Apple Store, the App Store on the phone in order to buy the service. So you'll still get the service on your phone. It's just where you check out and pay for it. And he's found a way to avoid the Apple Pay choke point. Of course, everyone thinking about what a disadvantage this would be for Apple if someone invents a phone that doesn't even use apps. And the more we see AI, the more we see ChatGPT, the more we can imagine a phone without any apps needed in order to function. So will it be Tesla who makes the new phone? We don't know. We just look forward to a day when the stupid app store is gone and all the goddamn signups are done, and I don't have to sign up for 10 million things and have a password manager and all this nonsense. So almost there, looking like it's almost there.
Yeah, and it's funny. I know that there was a skit on SNL. They were talking about the iHome, the iCar, the iPod, the iPad, all these different things. The funny thing is, the iHome used to just be like a radio docket or a charging station. I used to have one, but now they were talking about the iHome and the iCar and the grandeur of it all. But to your point, like he has Tesla, and then if you were to build a phone, obviously your Tesla and your phone would connect to one another, and then connecting it with Twitter as well. Yeah, it would be very interesting. Everyone thought it was going to be the Apples that were going to do this, but maybe it's going to be the Elon that does this.
Those idiots, Alexa and whatever the other girl's name is, Siri, they're not welcome in my house. I kicked them idiots out a long time ago. Alexa never showed up at my door. She was never welcome. And the other moron gets turned off in every device I buy. And so I don't hear them because they were never AI. They were just some ridiculous interface that was actually not useful whatsoever and felt like they were spying on you. So glad it's gone. And by the way, Jack Dorsey's whole Web 5 thing, I mean, that's more or less what it is, right? You don't need apps, that the phones have become so performant now that you can actually interact with web pages again through your device. And it might be that, right? We might just be going back to the normal web and avoid all of this stuff. And as long as you have an interface, and it looks like an AI could do it. In my book, The Satoshi Wedding Murders, that's the future I predict, right? A world of eyeballs, AI balls, helping us manage our Bitcoin. So it could happen. Right?
Yeah. And so going to talking about, venturing out on your own. So Spain seems to be venturing out on their own. So Spain's central bank is experimenting with central bank digital currencies. At first, when I saw this story, I was like, oh, so they're basically going to be the ones that are facilitating the EU's CBDC. But no, this is actually separate. And we've talked about this on FedWatch. I know Ansel's been keen on this. We've brought up central bank digital currencies or anti-fragmentation of the EU. But the Bank of Spain announced that they will be experimenting with a wholesale CBDC, but it will be in their own currency. So basically, they're going to be reintroducing a Spanish CBDC, not an EU, like a Euro CBDC. And we've talked about this. I mean, what is it? The pig nations, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain have all been kind of hampered. They're kind of on the lower, I don't want to say lower of the pecking order, but Germany's kind of the powerhouse or the manufacturing hub of the EU. These countries have exorbitant debt and they don't have enough exports in order to pay those back, where Germany has pretty robust exports, whether it's German auto manufacturing or just a lot of just German engineering products come out of there. So they are kind of the ones kind of footing the bill. It's kind of unfair to them. It's kind of unfair to the smaller countries or the countries that don't have as much robust exports, but they're trying to experiment with their own CBDC. Nolan, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, we had Winsome Hacks in the comments says, oh, what's more newsworthy than CBDC Spain breaking with Euro? It's not so much breaking with the European Bank, even though as we see the European Bank complaining about salary rises amidst inflation. So you break it, you buy it, you buggers. The way I imagine these CBDCs, frankly, is more like a policy dollar, like a political dollar, really designed to satisfy policy objectives about, calorie intake. So basically, it's food stamps. It's food stamps. In America, we would call that food stamps. So I think that's what this is going to be. It's a type of social benefits system, and likely won't be the type of money that will have markets and could be speculated on or anything like that. So it's probably going to be something we're going to see much more of. America, look at food stamp use; it's through the roof, right? Why wouldn't they choose one of these capturing devices like a CBDC. I predict it. It doesn't mean I like it. I just think it's going to happen. And the folks who need it are the ones who are going to be led to CBDCs.
Yeah. Well, speaking of needing things, it seems Russia needs something. Nolan, tell us what about it.
This is amazing. Russia needs more energy because they chose not to make their energy policy around the feelings of a teenage girl and whether or not the policies made her happy and made her happy about her childhood or not happy about her childhood, or what's going on with Greta's feelings today, and we don't know. Instead of doing any of that, Russia just said, well, actually, we should have more energy. Now, their energy industry is under attack for sure. And it looks like the American energy juggernauts are picking up the slack internationally and doing quite well, right? Which is good for Bitcoin because it puts Bitcoin one step away from controlling the whole world, really. If we just make American energy companies richer, now that they've wiped out, the Russian competition, we're not so far from realizing our own objectives. So we continue to closely monitor what the American energy system is doing and the American energy players are doing. But the Russians at least have the direction right, which is to now need twice as much energy as they're already producing because their goals to mine Bitcoin are so great. And that Bitcoin, like we've seen in Texas, can actually help you run your grid hotter and use the excess capacity in times of need. And that is the very reason why the Kenyan story that we covered at the top of the show will allow them to reduce energy costs by 60% for consumers, because you're actually able to load balance and control the grid in a way that maximizes efficiency. So if Russia starts experimenting large scale with this because of their now excess energy because of lack of markets, we might have a real innovation on our hands. So I'm not supporting Putin or anything like that, but watching their energy policy play out looks good for Bitcoin. Watching their energy system fail looks good for Bitcoin too, right? Because if American energy companies are rich, well, one step closer. But this is really just about them having directional correctness and not basing their policies on how a teenage girl is feeling that day.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Bitcoin gets a regulatory win. So, regulation's bad for Bitcoin, good for Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. Everything's good for Bitcoin. It gets a regulatory win, which is, in the current climate of things, it seems it's always under attack, at least by the Elizabeth Warrens, the Janet Yellens of it. But they won a case. So what do I mean by this? Stephen Barber of Upstream Data tweeted out, Adams County, Colorado attempted to censor and shut down one of his customers, Renegade Oil and Gas, for using Bitcoin mining as a means to reduce their emissions. This is a good thing, good for the environment, reducing your emissions, and restart their stranded gas wells. In the process of restranding their stranded gas wells, they're a small business, I think sub 100 employees, but basically they own a piece of land, there's oil underneath it, and they were trying to restart their wells to get oil and gas out of the ground. Gas prices were spiking. They've fallen a little bit since then, at least here in the States or where I reside. But then they were using Bitcoin mining to offset the emissions that were coming out. So when you're, drilling a well, a lot of times there's gases that come out, methane being much, much more harmful to the environment than CO2, or at least many studies have proven that they were using Bitcoin mining to do this. Well, the Adams County, I guess, bureaucrats or the people that in charge are like, hey, they're using more emissions. We don't want to use this. But as we've said on the show, you want to be energy literate. And I bet many people there, they drive their cars. Even if they have a Tesla, that energy has to come from somewhere. So they were giving energy back to the Adams County in Colorado. And basically, they were trying to shut them down with the threat of either violence or fines or whatever it may be of the state. And ultimately, it went to court. And luckily, the judge was able to learn a little something and actually ruled in favor of Renegade Oil and Gas. So they were not shut down. They're allowed to keep running. And they're allowed to strengthen the Bitcoin network by using stranded methane gas to mine for Bitcoin. So I think this is a win across the board. I wish the people that were going after it would see that this is a good thing. You're getting energy and you're reducing the amount of emissions going into the atmosphere. So I think this is a great thing. Nolan, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, it's another one of those cases. You see it on the Twitter files right now. There are some people that are so NPC that they just their mind can't be changed. Like, you can tell these people, and the legal term is prima facie, on its face, right? Prima facie means on its face. So you could tell a prima facie argument to a lawyer in this case and say, look, on its face, I'm not polluting. But the courts can be so twisted, especially these bureaucratic courts, that they can't see what's in front of their face, right? This is, I did my show, The Breakup, this morning, literally on your senses being dulled by distorted fields created by a dollar industrial complex, and how it becomes very difficult to actually get the right message through in the end because of these distortion fields. And you see it. For me, the story of Twitter knowing that they were shadow banning or visibility, whatever they called it, right? That's one thing. But the idea that other people can look at it and just ignore it and say, well, it's whatever. We knew that, you know, we knew it. It's kind of the same thing, how you can sit and look at an energy case, right? Which really talks about what we're up against. This is a psychological barrier, and there are people who are blinded by money and will be likely incapable of seeing the light, literally the light generated from efficient Bitcoin mining, maybe until it's too late for them, not for you.
Yeah, speaking of it being too late, things are going down in Israel. You want to talk about it, Nolan?
Oh, this is the best. This is the best. You know, when we talk about these amazing CBDCs and health passes, and how is it that Israel is at the top of all this stuff? They were the first to get the vax out, right? They were all into the vax. They had all the data. Remember all the data? It's working in Israel. It's working in Israel. Wow. Now, what's going on in Israel is they've implemented their social credit score system, their vax pass system, or whatever at McDonald's. We have a video for you.
Alrighty, we are at McDonald's in the big fashion mall, and here's what happens when you want to place your order on this screen over here. The way it works is like this: you click English, and now it says, in order to proceed with the order, you must confirm that you have a valid green certificate of your own. So let's say you don't have one. You click don't have. Look at that, it blanks out the screen. So basically, if you don't have a green pass, they will not give you food at McDonald's in Beit Shemesh. Sounds like Nazi Germany. That's where we're at. Welcome to Israel.
Well, that's not good, because people like their cheeseburgers and French fries. Even though they're filled with seed oils, people still love them. I think in America, this would turn into a gun battle. This would turn into a nightmare. This would be the Wild West. This would be saloon doors kicked open and guns a-blazing. We'll see what happens in Israel, but I can't imagine separating an American from their McDonald's with a vax pass. We'll see. We'll see, but don't be surprised if you see it. Don't be surprised if you see it.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's kind of the dangers of CBDCs. This is typically a health pass, but you know, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do. Oh, you went to McDonald's, we're docking some CBD from you, or you know, you didn't go buy from this vendor, we're docking from you. So it's very, very crazy. I think this is just the start of it, and many Bitcoiners have been warning about it. I definitely think this seems to be more of.
What I'm looking forward to is when McDonald's business sucks because they start with this shit, and they come to us for help, Bitcoiners. Let's go, 5 years into the future, right? When everyone's pissed off because they embraced this thing and all of this stuff gets exposed, and we live in a hyper Bitcoinist world, and they're already on their back foot because we're smashing them about the seed oils they use instead of the beef tallow that their fries used to be made in 20 years ago, thereby destroying them forever and their delicious taste. So, they're going to come to us for help one day. I think they are. What can we do? How can we be cool again? What do we have to do? Da, da, da. And I think in the end, we're going to say, you did this kind of stuff. Have a nice day. Good luck to yourself, McDonald's. We're living in the actual future, not the cesspool toxic mess that you guys were born out of. So there you go. Right now it's subsidized. Let's call it consumption, right? Let's call it subsidized consumption. Subsidized by the filters on people's minds, and we talk about energy literacy and financial literacy. Well, guess which one Americans are dumbest, the least literate in health. They're the least health literate people on earth, right? So who's responsible for health literacy? Well, people who will tell you need to get some kind of vaccine in order to eat more McDonald's. So if the situation was reversed and the camera was saying, maybe you shouldn't eat here, I'd probably have less problem with it. than what they're pulling, right? If the camera actually took the whole picture into account, not a green check mark, and the camera worked that way, right? Maybe you shouldn't eat at McDonald's today. And it worked that way, I would say, okay, maybe, right? I would have more confidence in that society than I would in the one that says, do you have the pass and we don't care about everything else. You can not or eat at McDonald's whether or not you've taken your pharmaceutical medicines. And I guess it reminds me of one other thing. We look down at Mexico. Oh, how can the cartels be so strong there? Oh my goodness. Well, their cartel doesn't mandate it for 3-year-olds. Ours does.
Yeah.
Ours does. You know what I mean? So who's under what cartel? We'll see.
Yeah. For anyone that has not seen the documentary Super Size Me, it's a fascinating documentary talking about McDonald's and just fast food in general.
I don't hate McDonald's. Look, honestly, I don't. Cheeseburger's a great thing. I'm not an anti McDonald's guy, but I don't go crazy on this stuff. That's for sure. But as far as a corporation, it looks like they can go fuck themselves.
Well, a corporation, it's kind of teetering right now, there was an open letter to Fidelity. So Fidelity is talking about. Cosmo Crixter had a great letter saying that Fidelity is taking the power of maximum transparency and maximum sovereignty by allowing to offer Bitcoin to their clients. And they said that they will be very transparent about it. But he said they were kind of negating the maximum sovereignty of it all. So right now, obviously, if you want to buy Bitcoin, Fidelity just opened up either within the last couple of weeks or will shortly open up the ability to buy Bitcoin on Fidelity. I have not done it myself or haven't heard any of my friends doing it because normally we buy it in self-custody yourself. But Fidelity is offering it to their clients. And I think this is going to be the floodgates to, if BlackRock's not doing it, they're going to have to do it. If Fidelity's doing it, they're one of the biggest. Vanguard's going to have to do it. Like all of the big names, the JP Morgans, all of this are going to have to do it in the space. But the next step of that is going to be able to take self-custody. So typically apps like Robinhood did not offer the ability to self-custody it. There's a few other platforms that were not allowing people to self-custody. You're allowed to buy it on the platform, but it was an IOU or a paper Bitcoin. But in the open letter to Fidelity, he was basically saying, I think that you're going to do a good job with maximum transparency. But in order to be ultimately giving the best deal for your clients, you need maximum sovereignty, which is the ability for them to take the Bitcoin off the exchange and into self-custody. And I thought it was a great letter. It was about, a 4 or 5 minute read, very well written. And I think it was a great way of him basically expressing, like, I like what you're doing, but just, take it to the next step. Nolan, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, so Cosmo is actually, forecasting something that we're going to be focused on a lot at Bitcoin 2023 in Miami, May 18th to 20th, which is allowing these exchanges and different platforms to really show their financial literacy services to clients. And those are, what do you guys do to promote self-sovereignty? And we're going to force them all to be public about that. So no more just allowing the exchanges to come and talk about all the new listings they have. And we have a robust listing procedure and we don't put shitcoins on and all that stuff they used to talk about. We're now going to make them talk about things like, what do you do for financial literacy? Why don't you give us your financial literacy program and we'll offer it to our attendees in a way that, you might be able to talk about your own products a bit, but at least you'll show the types of information and literacy that you're actually promoting amongst your users so that they have more confidence that what they're getting is actually useful for them. And if you can see all of these different efforts contrasted but next to each other, you'll actually get a much better sense of which businesses you'd want to deal with them that are at your level. Because if they can't do it, that'll be obvious. And the ones that do it, it's going to be very clear because we'll have more time for them. So that's a big focus at Bitcoin 2023, financial literacy and getting the big platforms to bring their financial literacy products to you, classes, services, and custodial multi-sig projects that they might have, and even just to have a bit of A/B testing and feedback from an audience interested in this stuff. So we want to make that venue possible so that you can meet these people, so that Cosmo can go directly to Fidelity people and say, get real. You got to offer some form of direct Bitcoin withdrawal off of the exchange that allows you to go directly to a Bitcoin wallet and not through a dollar conversion on-ramp and off-ramp, which is what I understand they only have now. The only way on or off the platform is to go to dollars to beat it. I don't think you can take your Bitcoin off if you just buy it there. So all that to say, I imagine such a product is coming from Fidelity. And, if we can get Cosmo and them to talk about it on stage, that's probably going to be good content. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all we got for today. We look forward to seeing you at Bitcoin 23 in Miami from May 18th through the 20th. You can use the code BMLive to get 10% off your tickets. We also had the Orange Party issue that just came out for the magazine. You can use BMLive to get 10% off a subscription there. I know we have the new issue getting sent to the printer today, so the Q4 issue will be coming out. I can't wait for us to announce the cover and what the issue is about. Really, really looking forward to it. And that's pretty much all I got. Anything else you want to add, Nolan, before we wrap up here?
No, you've got your spaces this afternoon, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be having a Twitter Spaces talking about the Madeira project, which is basically Free Madeira. They are a zone that they are trying to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, very similar to El Salvador. So a lot of people, the filmmakers of that, as well as many of the speakers, Greg Foss, Jeff Booth, Daniel Princey, Daniel Prince. So looking forward to having all of them on Twitter Spaces. That's on 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll be talking with all of them. So really looking forward to that.
I go every day at 8 a.m. with the breakup, where we take a look at all these stories around persuasion and the psychological engines that propel our economy. It's really just a fun sunrise, coffee, 8 a.m., the world through a Bitcoin lens. Join us every day, 8 a.m.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.